Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. 8 affordable but surprisingly strong fall fragrances. And when I was coming up with this list idea, I thought, great idea. And then I kind of backed off it a bit because I thought, I don't want to stand up here and talk about fragrances that are weak, because the first thing they do with affordable fragrances is they cut performance. It could be a number of different ways. Either they take away projection and they make it last a long time, or it projects, but it only lasts a couple of. I didn't want to do that, but thank God I have 4 or 5 times as many cool weather fragrances as warm weather. So I was going through my collection. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I can get some strong ones. One other thing, this is Boss Bottle Intense Eau de Parfum, and this is one of the very first fragrances that I got when I started collecting. And when I got this, it was a cheapie. 100 milliliters of this, I think I paid 30. This is a 50 mil. I paid $30 for it. But 100 milliliters of this was a $40 fragrance. And now it was discontinued, and it's now starting at $200 on eBay. That's 5 times the going rate of what it was. And that's kind of what maybe you're looking for in this as well. Fragrances you like the sound of, but also it's possible that these fragrances could go up in value over time. Fragrance number 1, this is Lempicka by Lolita Lempicka. This was a complete fluke buy. Normally, I'm very careful when I buy a fragrance, but this was an impulse buy. But honestly, this is probably the best inexpensive fragrance that I bought in the last 2 years. I like fragrances like Prada L'Homme that are very sort of one note forward. There's a lot of iris in Prada L'Homme, right? So you really get an idea what iris is like if you buy that. They do that here with anise. Anise I've always known as a spice that's got a licoricey vibe, but my God, they bombard you with anise with this fragrance. And apparently it turns out that I really like anise. It also has licorice, and this is a reformulation of a fragrance that came out at the turn of the century, so it has vanilla, and it's like a gourmand style. But the vanilla is a toned-down vanilla. It also has rum and almond. But really, the star of this show is the anise. It's a spicy licorice vibe, and it's way better than I ever thought. And I'm going to be looking for anise fragrances from now on. Now, in terms of performance here, this one, the longevity is really good. It's probably not as strong as the rest of the fragrances on this list in terms of projection, but longevity, I sprayed this on my hand last night, and I don't even have, it's like in the afternoon now, I don't even have to look for it on my hand. So, yeah, longevity is great. Projection's not bad, but it's not going to blow your socks off. Fragrance number 2, this is Bentley for Men Intense, and this is the one fragrance that just belongs on this list because this is an absolute beast of a fragrance, and it's between $30 and $35 for a full bottle. And this is like, when you put it on, it's just a huge blast of leather, rum, and incense. It's in your face. It's very strong. It's very, very boozy too. This one, though, is a polarizing one. Some people are going to hate it. And then there are going to be the other people that are like, oh, this is niche quality. And it is certainly niche performance. I don't know about quality. It's a hard one to judge quality-wise, but it's very different and it's very strong. Fragrance number 3, this is Salvatore Ferragamo's Uomo. This is a fragrance I had no interest in getting because I had so many fragrances of this style. I just heard so much about it. It was just like YouTube after YouTube video. It was 2 or 3 years ago. And eventually I broke down and I bought a 30 milliliter. And I can see why. It's really, really pleasant. It's meant to smell like tiramisu. And that's what Salvatore Ferragamo said. It wasn't like most people think it smells like kind of thing. It's supposed to smell like tiramisu, which is a really nice Italian cake, sponge cake. It's got custard in it. It's got a little bit of chocolate. It's got a lot of coffee. And so, yeah, it's got a cake vibe. But it is saved from being like super sweet by the amount of ambroxan. So ambroxan has the amber quality, but it also has a lot of freshness. So the cake element is really freshened up with the ambroxan, and it really works. It's got great performance. This one, price-wise, a little bit high. It's more in the $55 range, but these days, that's still affordable for most people. Mid-range kind of starts at $60 and up, so yeah, this one's good. Next up, we have Detour Noir by Haramain, which is a fragrance that I have always said smells sweeter than Leighton, which this is a clone of. And if you look at the accords on Fragrantica, and this is something for future reference if you get a clone, very, very few clones do an exact replica. There are some that do twists of 2 different fragrances, but even regular clones will change it slightly. And if you look at the accords, they bumped up the vanilla in this. Vanilla for Leighton is the number 2 accord. Warm spicy is number 1. That warm spicy is the cardamom in Leighton, right? For this, vanilla is number 1, and the warm spicy, the cardamom element, has been bumped down. And I can definitely tell that. This is a sweeter, slightly sweeter version of Leighton. It's still very much like Leighton. It's got the floral element. The cardamom's bumped down. The floral element, though, is key. It's there. It's very strong. It's powdery. It's Leighton-like, but it's not exactly Leighton, but it's way cheaper. Fragrance number 5, this is Toy Boy by Moschino. This was an iconic release in 2019. It was one of the top 2 or 3 releases of that year. But the fragrance styles have changed. It moved from something like this, which is outside the box and challenging, to everybody's doing the same thing now. Niche or designer, it's all vanilla, vanilla, vanilla. It's all gourmand. And so fragrances like this that are almost masterpieces are getting overlooked. So the prices have come down and given you an opportunity to get it. Now, it's still mostly mid-range, like just under $60, but you can get at Fragrance Buy at the moment, which sells fragrances Canada and the US. You can get a 50 ml of this for $37. It's a really good buy. And the reason this one is good to have in smaller quantities, and mine is only a 30 ml, is because it's challenging. It's different. This is one that I want to wear when I'm in a confident mood. Now, it's got a rose note, and some people call it feminine. I just don't know how you can call this feminine when the supporting notes, the spices, are so masculine and pungent. So it's pink pepper, nutmeg, and cloves. And the cloves, I don't know if you guys have ever smelled cloves, but it's very strong, very pungent, and that spicy cloves works with the other 2 spices and kind of takes over the fragrance and makes it very masculine. This also has cashmere, which is a musky, woody element, so there's a musky quality to this too. Definitely a love it or hate it fragrance, but this one is brutally underpriced at the moment because the projection and all-around performance is amazing. This should not be a cheapie. Fragrance number 6 is Fragrance World's Hardwood. Now, this is a clone that you should be targeting for a very simple reason. Most people always go, well, look, if you're going to clone a fragrance, clone an expensive discontinued fragrance, right? I agree with that, but I'll take it one step further. The ideal fragrance to clone is one like this, which is cloning a Bath and Body Works fragrance, which was never high quality to begin with. Clone that. Because the only reason the Bath and Body Works fragrance was popular wasn't the quality, it was the scent profile. People loved the scent. I have a Bath and Body Works like 20 minutes from my house, and it's like a gussied up slightly Body Shop. I mean, we're not talking super high quality, but people love the scent of mahogany woods, which is what this is cloning, right? And so I think this is a perfect clone. It smells awesome. It's got the twist. It's got that cognac, amber, and vanilla. You know, obviously it's got, it's called Hardwood. It's got a mahogany note, but it's really the twist on the sweetness that I really like. And it's this twist on the sweetness that people liked about mahogany woods. And so good performance, very strong. Presentation is terrible, but for the price, like, you know, it's under $40. You know, it's a no-brainer. This is another Fragrance World masterpiece. This is Intro Aftermath, and this is a clone of Side Effect by Initio. Now, Initio is like super expensive, but it also smells like Dolce & Gabbana The One Luminous Night, which is what everybody was talking about a year, 18 months ago. Everyone wanted to try that because it had a really cool scent profile. Well, the great thing about this one is you can get an idea of that Side Effect Luminous Night, what everybody liked, what they liked about the sweet spiciness. You can get that with this fragrance because this is a clone of Side Effect and by extension Luminous Night. So what it has is It's got tobacco and rum, the vice notes, as I call them. And then it's also got saffron and cinnamon. It's got some sweetness as well, but it's just the different twist on the sweet spiciness that's appealing. Now, in terms of performance, initially when you get this, the performance will be atrocious, 2 hours. But this is one of those fragrances that I've let sit. Within 2 weeks, it'll be 4 or 5 hours. And then, within maybe a month or two, it's 6 or 7. And it smells awesome. Finally, we've got Sepil Bound. And this is a clone of Armani Code Profumo, which is my favorite version of the Armani Code fragrances because it's spicy. It's got the ambery, sweet leather element, but it's got a lot of cardamom and nutmeg as well. So there's a spicy quality here. This is a very good imitation of it, pretty accurate. It's very, very cheap, though. The performance is not what they compromised on. In terms of like the succinctness of the notes, yeah, it does smell a little bit more synthetic than Code Profumo, but it's just beast mode. This is a great fragrance, I think, for dating, because no one's going to be able to tell the difference between Code Profumo and this. It smells awesome. But if you're like a collector and a bit of a connoisseur, maybe it won't be for you, but it's a $22, $23 fragrance that would be really good for someone who's dating, but very practical because they will notice it, and it does smell good. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. I stand by the performance of all these fragrances. At least with a couple of them, you need to wait a bit, but they do get there one way or another. And all these smell really nice. And thanks for watching.